The shades that drape the earth one day shall be akin to those that drape the eyes of the ones bound for afterlife. Author. Chapter 1. The Dream. Jess was almost done reading the last of the research updates on solar activity and sunspots, published in the Scientific Society magazine. The article spoke extensively about the way the sun had been behaving erratically over the past few millennia and the way it was supposedly going to misbehave over the coming years. All the data methodically collected and presented by the author was nothing short of awe-inspiring for Jess. Being a senior scientist in ISRO and an established researcher in astrophysics, Jess was always fascinated by the magnanimous nature of the planetary parents and the equally fascinating love of the celestial cousins of Earth. Being a mom of two and a single mom at that, it was not easy for Jess to cope with the dual responsibility. After her husband, CG, died in a freak car accident, Jess was left to take care of both the daughters by herself. Her Aunt Martha came from Coonoor in Kerala to live with them after the tragedy and had by now become a permanent member of the family. All thanks to Aunt Martha, Jess could work late at night, content with the fact that both her daughters were in good care of their Nana. For Aunt Martha, though, it was a completely different story. After all, people her age would never be accustomed to handle heavy metal, nose rings and science projects in one go. Jessie's daughters, Rachel, 13 years, and Eva, 6 years, were poles apart when it came to interests and attitude. The only common point for both the sisters was their mom, who they loved more than their life. Jess knew this, deep in her heart, and sometimes when her work took priority over her family, which had been happening too often lately, Jess would go into these episodes of deep guilt followed by display of overt affection for both the girls. "It's closing time, Ms. Nair," said Mr. Doss from the door. Jess turned around to see the frail Mr. Doss standing in the doorway with a huge bunch of keys in his hand and an expectant yet tired smile on his face, which secretly wished Jess would stop working so late every day. A quick glance at the wall clock showed that she had worked well beyond her self-imposed curfew of 3 a.m. and it would be dawn in a couple of hours. Jess smiled at Mr. Doss as she got up from her seat and said, "Mr. Doss, I know it must be really tiring and boring for you to sit outside this office each day while I do my research work in here. I just wanted to make it up to you and want you to have this." Saying this, Jess took out a neatly wrapped shawl from her handbag and handed it over to Mr. Doss. "I hope there is no protocol that stops you from taking this from me," Jess said with a smile. "None that I can think of, ma'am," said Mr. Doss, accepting the gift with trembling hands. "May I ask you a question, ma'am?" "Of course," said Jess. "Don't you miss them when you are here for so long? I mean, isn't it difficult for you to make time for them?" Jess thought hard before answering Mr. Doss. I do miss them, sometimes a lot, Mr. Doss, but my work is my passion and I ensure I make it up to them when I reach home," Jess said with a smile. She knew in her heart that she was lying, well, partly, at least. For Jess, the most important work was her research, and after her husband's death in a car crash, she almost had nothing to do with life. Had it not been for Eva, her younger daughter, who was 2 at that time and fighting a battle for life after being diagnosed with pleurisy, a severely inflamed lungs disease. Eva's childhood had been a roller coaster ride and she had seen the best and worst of health after her rare disorder. Amazingly, Eva was now totally cured, and what was more astonishing to Jess and to the doctors was the fact that it had happened without the use of medicines. "God has bigger plans for you," Jess would always tell Eva and hug her. "I know, Alma, Anu told me," Eva would always smile and say. Weird name for an imaginary friend, thought Jess. Although Jess loved both her daughters equally, but when it came to Eva, Jess would cross all lengths to ensure that she got the best of everything. The most fortunate thing for Jess was the fact that Rachel, the elder daughter, was not offended in any way by this. Rach was in fact happy that her mom left her alone and would not interfere a lot in her life. Now that Rach was 13, she was exploring life her own way. At precisely 5 o'clock HRS that morning, something happened in deep space that would normally have caught Jessie's attention had it not been for her early departure from her ISRO office that day. The impact of what had happened today would only be clear to Jess later when she would be looking at the library of previous day recordings of the Mangalayan mission. She logged in the anomaly under urgent category and sent the observations to the designated authorities under that tab. Back home it was usual chaos as Eva had got up early and was looking for Jess all over. Aunt Martha was having a tough time convincing Eva that her mom was not home and was about to return from office. "Mom would be back any moment, Eva. Why don't you go and play with your dolls for a while?" Aunt Martha was usually a quiet and calm person on most days, but recently Eva had started to get on her nerves. Fearing an emotional outburst from the child, Aunt Martha chose to send her to play. "Why do you have to give in to all her demands, Aunt Martha?" asked Rachel. "You know someday you're going to get in trouble if you keep saying yes to all she asks for," continued Rachel. "So, now you are going to teach me about raising kids, is it, dear?" Aunt Martha said this with more affection than scorn in her voice, and both of them laughed at the idea. Eva in the meanwhile was busy tinkering with a miniature, pink gas stove so she could make a cup of hot chocolate for Anu and herself. "Would you like to have some cookies with the hot chocolate, Anu?" "I knew you'd love to, they are my favorites too. Could you turn off the kettle while I arrange the table for us?" "Thanks, Anu. You are such a wonderful friend. You know what Amma always says, that God has chosen me for a bigger purpose. I feel scared as I'm too small for big things, don't you think so?" "Oh, Anu, you always say good things about me all the time. Here, have some more hot chocolate. You know this boy in my class, Uday? I hate him so much. He's always pulling my hair and keeps teasing me. Will you beat him up for me, Anu?" Not realizing that her mother was standing behind her, Eva was going on about her usual game with her usual imaginary friend. "All right now, little miss, there shall be no fights with Uday or whoever is troubling you," Jess said with a smile. "Mom, you're back from office," said Eva jumping up from her play table. "Tell me, did you bring the comic that I asked you to get me, and what about the pink and red hair clips shaped like butterflies that I asked you, and also the large chocolate pie and—" "Hey, hold on kiddo," said Jess, "it's 6 a.m. in the morning. You don't expect all those good people to be awake at this hour, going about making pies for you, now do you?" I don't know, 'cause Anu says it's like a piece of pie for him to manage that." "Piece of cake," said Jess, laughing and hugging Eva tightly. "Come on, let's go see what Aunt Martha has made for breakfast." "Hey, did you brush your teeth or have you been drinking your hot chocolate just like that?" "Ops," said Eva with a sheepish grin. It was well past 10 a.m. when Jess finally got to catch up on some sleep. Tired as she was, it took Jess all of 10 minutes to plop on her comfy bed and doze off into a deep slumber. "I'm not going to get up mid-sleep today, no matter what," Jess told herself. "I have got to catch up on sleep or else I won't be able to concentrate in today's briefing or my work. It's funny how I keep thinking about my work at all times. Guess I'm going mad slowly." Jess said that out almost loud and immediately regretted saying it. "No matter what happens, I will not have that dreaded dream today, and I will not wake up mid-sleep." "Don't think about it, Jess," she told herself again. More you think about it, more it's going to cement its foundation and recur. It was past 11 a.m. and Jess was sound asleep with no one to bother her. The girls had gone to their schools and wouldn't be back before 4 p.m. Aunt Martha was in the kitchen supervising the maid and preparing the lunch. It came as usual. The dream started with Jess standing in a dark cavernous place trying to find her way and trying desperately to adjust her eyes to the darkness, which seemed to keep getting darker every second. She had to find Eva, no matter how. Last she saw Eva, she was having her dreaded coughing bout and Jess was looking for Eva's medicine. Suddenly Jess saw a little speck of light just ahead to her right and felt a sudden wave of relief run through her entire body. The light was blue in color and quiet. Far, I have to reach it and it will help me find Eva. Jess somehow knew that the light was going to help her but was unsure how to ask it for help. That tiny speck of blue light then started to flicker and move ahead slowly, growing bigger each moment. Just as Jess's eyes were trying to adjust to the brilliant flashes of light in front of her, the orb-like presence started shooting out something. Jess ducked instinctively and closed her eyes, trying to save herself. Suddenly she realized that the objects coming out of the bright orb were shapes. They were numbers of some sort. She could now clearly see a 34, a 90, and a very faint 6. All this while the orb kept getting bigger. The little speck of blue was no longer little, but a huge ball of blue floating towards her. Suddenly Jess saw Eva walking through the light, smiling as she walked. Eva is waving to Jess. Jess was both happy and angry at the sight of Eva and the blue orb. She has so many questions that she needs to ask Eva. Why did she leave without telling her mom? Where did she go? Who was she with all this time? Why did you not contact me in any way? Are you okay? Come here, let me hold you. As soon as Jess put out her hand to grab Eva, she was suddenly thrown back. It felt like a truck hitting her and Jess fell back onto the ground. The force was so immense that it almost knocked the wind out of her. Lying hunched up on the ground and catching her breath, Jess saw from the corner of her eye that Eva was standing to her left and holding someone's hand. The person was unrecognizable as Jess could only focus on Eva, and each moment Jess tried to focus on the person Eva was standing with, her head would start to spin uncontrollably and she would feel she was about to pass out. All Jess could see was a faint bluish glow in place of the person, but the hand. The hand was quite distinct. It's like one of those dreams you have where you are with someone and they talk to you and laugh with you, but you don't see their face. Mom, are you okay? I'm fine, dear. Where were you? Did you miss me? Who were you with? Are you hurt? Oh, Eva. Thank God you're okay. I was starting to think. Mom. Eva was quite loud and that shook Jess out of the shock, and then she started crying uncontrollably. Mom, listen to me. It's time. You are not ready yet, Mom. I need to go, Mom. Please be ready, Mom, please. New Eva, come back, you can't leave like. Mom, wake up. Eva was home and she was tugging on Jess's arm, trying to wake her up. Jess got up with a start and was taken aback to see Eva standing close to her. When did you come back? Asked Jess. Sometime back, Mom. What? Is it 4 already? I just went to sleep. It's not 4 p.m., Mom, it's 5 now. Don't you have to go to office today? Oh, I can't believe I slept for so long, it just felt like a moment. Did you do your homework? Mom, why were you crying in your sleep? No. I was not. Yep, you were. See the pillow cover, Mom. What was it, Mom? A bad dream? Yes, honey, a very bad dream. But don't you worry, it's just a dream after all, said Jess, hugging Eva tightly. Now, if you don't mind, Princess, I have to get ready for work and leave. Would you please tell Aunt Martha to make me some sandwiches for work? Sure, Mom. Would you like some mayonnaise on your sandwiches, or cheddar? Eva asked Jess in a manner she had seen the sandwich counter guy ask her many times. Sensing her daughter's playful mood, Jess answered. Oh, thanks for asking, miss. I would like to have the grilled mayo sandwich, with some lettuce and lots of broccoli. Mom, that's a really gross choice, said Eva from the corridor, making a twisted face. Jess laughed hard at her reaction and closed the door behind her.